Ladies and gentlemen, behold the legendary Mega Mewtwo Z. It's a rather inaccurate statement since what you're seeing on the screen right now is actually not Mega Mewtwo Z. A few months back, some footage depicting an all-new form of Mewtwo was released for Pokken Tournament, resulting in pretty much everybody and their mothers crapping their pants over what they thought was Mega Mewtwo Z. Quite the contrary, what you're seeing is actually called Shadow Mewtwo, and while we don't know for sure if it's not going to be in Pokemon Z, at this point it's almost guaranteed that this Pokemon is a Pokken Tournament exclusive. However, this in no way means that Mega Mewtwo is guaranteed not to happen in Pokemon Z. Hell, if anything, the fact that Pokken Tournament decided to include something like Shadow Mewtwo in their game indicates that Mega Mewtwo Z is even more likely, since it shows that Pokemon is willing to milk Mewtwo for even more forms. But what's even crazier is that the same reasoning can be applied to Charizard, and while it's far from confirmed, I believe there's a very good chance that both Mewtwo and Charizard will be getting new Mega Evolutions in Pokemon Z. Also, before I get into this, at the time of making this video, it hasn't yet been confirmed what the sequel game to X and Y will be called, if it's going to be Pokemon Z or X2Y2 or something else entirely. So right now, I'm operating under the assumption of Pokemon Z, but if it does indeed turn out to be X2 and Y2 or something else, then the same reasoning I'm using here still applies. First, I want to analyze the prospect of Mega Mewtwo Z and Charizard Z from a business and sales point of view. And from this perspective, it's a phenomenal choice. Mewtwo and Charizard are two of the most beloved and well-known Pokemon of all time, so releasing a new Mega Evolution for them in Pokemon Z would by itself drive a lot of people to pick up the game. I mean, if you look at it, this is exactly what Game Freak did with their choice to have separate Mega Evolutions for Mewtwo and Charizard in X and Y. They capitalized on the popularity of these Pokemon by creating exclusive Mega Evolutions for each version, which resulted in both games selling significantly more, so it's really not out of the realm of possibility that they do this again with Pokemon Z. Next, let's go ahead and look at this issue from a design point of view. Now here's the thing about the design process. Making a design for anything takes lots of trial and error, meaning there are probably tons of scrap designs for Mega Mewtwo X and Y, as well as Mega Charizard X and Y. So, Game Freak pretty much already has a starting point for the Z Mega Evolutions for both Pokemon, because all they need to do for inspiration is look at the scrapped Mega designs for Mewtwo and for Charizard. Or hell, they could even draw inspiration from the final X and Y Mega Evolutions themselves. Considering the fact that Ken Sugimori has come out and said that they've scrapped entire Mega Evolutions for Pokemon like Flygon simply because they couldn't come up with a good design for them, designs are a huge problem when it comes to Megas. However, Mega Charizard and Mewtwo Z would be relatively easy for Game Freak to make since there's already framework for them in the form of previous Mega designs, so from a design point of view, it would be easier to do. Finally, if you look at it, Pokemon is an incredibly consistent and symmetric franchise. For example, in every single generation so far, we've pretty much had the same pattern. Two versions of the generation released at the same time, followed by a sequel or follow-up game, such as Yellow, Crystal, Emerald, etc., or in the case of Black and White 2, we had two follow-up games. If Game Freak wants to be symmetric here, then they would do the same thing they did for X and Y, and include another Mega Evolution for Mewtwo and Charizard in Pokemon Z. When you look at it closely, it's absolutely uncanny how consistent the Pokemon franchise is, at least when it comes to the main series games, so I'd say it's a fair bet that they'll continue the Mega Evolution trend for Pokemon Z. And those are pretty much the reasons why I think Mega Charizard and Mewtwo Z have a very high chance of happening. While it's definitely not confirmed, I say the possibility is pretty high at this point. Lastly, before I end off the video, there's one more thing I want to do, and that's speculate a little bit on the stats of Mega Charizard Z and Mega Mewtwo Z. The first thing to note is that the X version of the Mega Evolutions for both of these Pokemon specialized in physical attack, whereas the Y version specialized in special attack, which pretty much leaves two options for the Z Mega Evolutions. The first option is that both will specialize more in speed as opposed to attacking stats, sort of like you had with Deoxys Speed. This would be especially interesting to see on Mega Charizard Z, since it's got slightly underwhelming speed compared to Pokemon of the same tier. The second possibility is that both will specialize in more defensive stats, and if you ask me, this is a lot more interesting. Mega Charizard X actually has very good physical defense, while Mega Charizard Y has very good special defense, so combining the defensive stats of these two and possibly buffing HP would result in a very defensive Fire-type Pokemon. The Mega Evolutions of Mewtwo, on the other hand, don't quite follow the same pattern, but even still, seeing a defensive Mega Evolution for this Pokemon would be very cool. Well, alright folks, that is pretty much going to do it for this video. As always, if you enjoyed, be sure to drop me a like down below, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more Pokemon videos in the future. Also, be sure to let me know your thoughts on the prospect of Mega Mewtwo Z and Mega Charizard Z. Do you guys think it's going to happen or it's not going to happen? And be sure to let me know why you think what you think. Otherwise, I hope you all have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video.